Good morning. Welcome to Talkline on the MetroNews Radio Network.
Do not attempt to change the station. You are surrounded.
We interrupt this program to bring you an emergency news bulletin. Repeat, this is an emergency bulletin. Keep your radio turned on.
Holy smoke.
From the studios of the West Virginia Radio Corporation and the MetroNews Radio Network, the voice of West Virginia, comes the most powerful radio show in West Virginia. This is MetroNews Talkline with Hoppy Kercheval.
Check set line up, link. Activated Telos telephone. Switch network control from Charleston to Morgantown.
Stand by. Q Hoppy. You're on.
Good morning. Welcome to Talkline on MetroNews in and around the great state of West Virginia. Hoppy Kercheval with you. J.R. Falls, our producer, Matt Sunday, handling the video stream. You can watch us by going to wvmetronews.com and clicking on the Metro News channel. Coming up this morning, later in this hour, we're going to talk about the news that broke last night from Shane Lyons, the athletics director of WVU, saying that Dana Holgorsen will be back next season. But all the questions were not answered. It was a fairly simple statement, but everything's not all there. And so we're going to talk about that with Brad Howe and Alan Taylor. I got some thoughts on that as well. Coming up next hour, the Attorney General of West Virginia, Patrick Marcy, is going to announce what is being called a major consumer products settlement or consumer commercial service settlement in West Virginia. I'll have details for you next hour on that. But first up this morning, we continue to talk about Donald Trump, the statements that he made. He's modified it some. The initial statement was Monday, he called for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States. He's modified that somewhat and said this was always meant to be temporary, and just until we get a handle on things and find out, I think, what he said, what the hell is going on. And naturally, there's been a polarizing of this. There's been a lot of people condemning it, including a lot of Republicans, but others have said, no, that's what you should do when you don't know what you're doing, and try to prevent more attacks in the United States post-San Bernardino, post-Boston, post the attack on the U.S. military base. Let's find out what one of the leading Republicans, the leading Republican in West Virginia, thinks about this. U.S. Senator Shelley Moore Capito. Senator, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great, Hoppy. Thanks.
Thanks for coming on. Do you support or oppose what Donald Trump said?
I oppose it wholeheartedly. I think it's divisive. I think it's sort of outlandish, and I don't think it achieves the goal. I think what he's doing really is, stirring up a feeling that in the end we should be uniting around a feeling of how to destroy ISIS, how to get a hold of the terrorist threat. I do agree that we need increased screenings and tightened security, but not by excluding, all Muslims from entering the United States. That just goes way too far, in my opinion.
A new Rasmussen poll out today, telephone survey, finds 66% of likely Republican voters favor a temporary ban on all Muslims entering the United States until the federal government improves its ability to screen out potential terrorists. So 2/3 of likely Republican voters apparently tend to agree with Donald Trump. Does that put you out of the mainstream with your own party?
Well, according to that poll, I just don't agree with it. I think it's way too far. It's divisive. I think, we need Muslim countries to help us fight. We have a Muslim community in and around West Virginia that are very much the fabric of our country. So I just think that we need to look at visa waivers. We need to look at making sure that we have the protocols in place to prevent people coming in this country that could pose a danger. Yes, all of that. We need more cybersecurity. Yes, all of that. But the way he's phrased it and framed it is just over the top.
But he has seemed to have touched a nerve. It had certainly dominated the news cycle since Monday afternoon. You've probably heard from people who say maybe they whisper it to you, maybe they shout it out like, I think he's right. I don't want to be a bigot, but gosh, I think he's right about this. What do you say to those folks? If you've gotten any of that comment.
I haven't had anybody say that.
Okay, all right, okay.
But I will say this. He's running for president. And so he has a pattern, I think, of going big and then pulling back, so he grabs the news cycle. I mean, he didn't become a billionaire by, not clever thinking and good strategy. And I think this is part of his strategy. But what it's doing, Hoppy, is where should our real focus be? In my opinion, our real focus should be on isolating, containing, and destroying ISIS, figuring out how to get into the social media recruitment process that they're very successful on. You're seeing this coming out of the California case, that a lot of this radicalization was developed over the internet. To me, this is where we should be focusing our attention rather than excluding an entire segment, which kind of goes against our own principles that we were founded on. I think, let's track where people have been. Let's get chips in passports that can help us with the European community, interchange information. These are the things I think we should be concentrating on.
U.S. Senator Shelley Moore Capito is with us and strongly opposes the comments by Donald Trump about blocking temporarily Muslims entering the country. So do you think that this is having a harmful effect with the U.S. allies that are Muslim, like Turkey? And
I think it's possible. We need to have Turkey. We need Saudi Arabia. We need the United Arab Emirates, who have worked with us to help us use Air Force and air assets in Asia. So I don't know how it could help. And I think in the end it could hurt. And, this is a world community we're dealing with now. We just need to get a handle on where the radicalization is and stamp it out.
U.S. Senator Shelley Moore Capito is with us. You have not, to my knowledge, said which of the Republican candidates you support. Obviously, you would support the nominee. There are a lot of established Republicans who are very worried, as you know, about a Trump candidacy, thinking that the conventional wisdom is that this would be a doomsday scenario for the Republican Party. You look at some of the polls of Trump's negative, the suggestion being that if he would get the nomination, it would essentially secure a victory for Hillary Clinton. A, do you buy into that scenario? And B, does that worry you as what I would call, not in a derogatory way, but a rather established Republican?
Well, I'm concerned about who the next president is in terms of homeland security, in terms of the effect it's going to have on West Virginia. Hillary Clinton will not be good for West Virginia, and I don't think that she has the trustworthiness or the policy agenda that I think is good for this country. So I'm going to support the Republican nominee, absolutely.
All right, would that be if it's Trump? Would you support Trump over Hillary Clinton?
We'll see what happens, but I'm not going to support Hillary Clinton. That's for certain.
But you would support the nominee even if the nominee is Donald Trump.
I will support the Republican nominee. Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you about education. The United States Congress has passed. The president is going to sign, I believe, a revision of No Child Left Behind. And this kind of legislation gets way down in the weeds really quickly. But what is this revision and why, which you supported, and why is it significant?
Well, it's significant because it does a couple things. It moves the responsibility for and the flexibility back to the states, school boards, parents, teachers, who I think are better equipped and more passionate about their children's education than anybody could be here in a bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. It ends the Common Core mandate. It lets the states be held accountable. It does retain the testing, and I think that's important. I mean, I have 3 children who went through the school. You want to know where your child's standing, where your school's standing. So I think that it has a heavy emphasis on science, technology, engineering, and math on the STEM areas, which are the jobs of tomorrow. But it gets rid of No Child Left Behind and all the negativity that's been associated with it. And it's the best reform. We had 85 senators vote for it yesterday. I think it was overwhelming in the House. I think it's an early present to West Virginia families.
Mm-hmm. And so why should West Virginia education officials or local officials not just groan and roll their eyes and say, oh, okay, here comes another big bushel of paperwork on how we're supposed to do education? Because really, the state board is supportive of this. The West Virginia Education Association has been supportive of this. It really has been how Washington should work, with Lamar Alexander leading it in the Senate, with Patty Murray as his ranking member, to really negotiate these changes with the most interested parties. And I think the West Virginia education community is going to throw up their hands and say, finally, Washington's off our backs. We can create and do the things we know are going to work better for our state. One of the amendments that you got added promotes digital learning. It's supposed to promote digital learning. We hear a lot about 24/7 learning and not just learning from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. So what does this do on that front?
Well, Angus King, who's a senator, Democrat senator from Maine, we're rural states, and there's this homework gap that's being created. Through my Capito Connect, I've thought a lot about broadband connectivity because West Virginia is so woefully behind. What this will help with is innovative ways that schools can send an iPad or something home with the child, and they can have the connectivity at home that's going to allow them to be prepared in the classroom the next day. And if you don't have it at home, you're going to be behind again. And there are things like in Maine, they have a program where the library has one of those digital hotspots where you can, plug into a device. Mm-hmm. Maybe let the children, check that out, take it home, then they're connected. That's just one idea that's out there, but we need to spur on innovation and ways to get that connectivity to everybody.
Boy, we still, though, are, and I don't know what the numbers are, I just know I have a sense that we're still behind in connectivity to high speed across much of the state because, let's face it, if we're a rural state and if you live up the Hollow and there's 8 to 10 houses up there, it's just you're going to be the last one to get connected.
Yeah, but you've got to remember, we have a universal service fund that we all pay into on our phone bills. All those little lists of things that you have that you pay. That is going to people across the country to get them connected. And the next tranche of funding, which Frontier has in the state of West Virginia, is supposed to go to underserved and unserved. So, this is millions of dollars where we're supposed to be reaching those hollows, reaching those people that are most difficult to find. And so we're kind of holding the feet to the fire there to make sure that actually occurs. U.S.
Senator Shelley Moore Capito, thanks for coming on today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
All right. So Capito, very critical of Trump's comments. And so when asked the direct question, do you support those comments or oppose, she says unequivocally she opposes those comments. We're going to take a break and come back. When we come back, we got a lot to do today. We're going to get the latest from San Bernardino. We're learning more and more and more about the attack there and the connection to perhaps larger terrorist organizations, so we'll get the latest on that. Also coming up, one of the shortcomings, one of the challenges that many of us face is what you hear about a lot, and that is saving enough for retirement. And we're always told no matter how much you save, guess what? You've never saved enough. We have a particular problem in West Virginia as a poor state, as an older state. How bad is the problem? What can we do about it? We'll talk with David John of the AARP. Also coming up in the next half hour, Shane Lyons, the athletics director of WVU, issued a fairly brief statement last night saying that Dana Holgerson will be the coach of the WVU Mountaineer football team next season. But that's all it said. So we're still left wondering about whether there will be an extension of the contract. There's 2 years left. Whether there will be a negotiation to try to retool the buyout. We just don't know. Now, we have some speculation, but we don't know for sure. So we'll talk about that coming up with Brad Howe and Alan Taylor. All that and more coming up as Talkline continues.
'Tis the season to start saving. At MVB Bank, it's easy with our new 12-month CD. Start earning 1.15% annual percentage yield with a minimum deposit of just $1,000. To start your CD savings today, visit our jolly team at any MVB location or call us at 844-MVB-BANK. It's sure to keep you off the naughty list next year. MVB Bank. Your financial life made easy. Member FDIC.
Look around your holiday table this year and think, how many faces are missing because they've had to leave home to find good jobs in more technology-driven, economically diverse states? The High Technology Foundation is working to keep young, educated West Virginians here at home by attracting high-tech companies to our state. The High Technology Foundation is helping build stronger West Virginia families by building a stronger West Virginia, because there's no place like home and family for the holidays. Learn more at wvhtf.org.
Changing lives by preventing harm and providing hope and healing to hurting children and families. Burlington United Methodist Family Services has led the way in West Virginia for over 100 years, preventing harm by helping place endangered children in safe, caring foster homes, providing hope by counseling birth parents in their choice to parent or make an adoption plan, and helping adopted parents in their quest for a child. Go to bumfs.org to see how Burlington United Methodist Family Services is truly changing lives.
You're listening to Talkline on MetroNews. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more, together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Gosh, cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. Learning more each day about the San Bernardino shooters. Gernal Scott, Fox News Radio, continues to follow the story. Gernal, now we know that attacks may have been planned as long ago as 3 years ago.
Absolutely, and all this centers around the information given to authorities by another gentleman, Enrique Marquez, and we're hearing, Fox is hearing, that he is expected to be sometime in the next hours or maybe days indicted for the information he's given to authorities. In addition to reports and information he's given that he bought a couple of the AR-15 assault rifles, he also told investigators, according to our sources on the ground there, that he and Farouk planned an attack as far back as 2012. So, I mean, when James Comey, the FBI director, goes before a Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday and says Tashfeen Malik and Saeed Farouk were radicalized as early as 2 years ago before they even met, it could go back even further than that.
Yeah, and then that adds to speculation that somehow they were brought together by their radicalization, and their marriage perhaps was planned as part of the plan. I mean, I don't know, I could go on, but it does open a lot of speculation doors there.
Absolutely. I believe, if I remember the hearing yesterday, one of the committee members brought that very fact up, and they called that, if that is the case, that would be a game changer.
Right.
And that was the term that they used, and Director Comey says, yes, we would be very interested to find out if that were indeed the case.
Yeah, I recall that. So this Marquez character, he apparently was on the road to radicalization, too. He'd been a convert, and he is obviously up to his hips in this thing.
Absolutely. Over the weekend, his home was searched by FBI officials. They haven't said specifically what was found or if what they found there prompted this talk of the possible arrest. And again, they have been talking to him for the better part of a week now, trying to get information on Malik and Farouk, their possible associations, and maybe even trying to find more about this money trail that was talked about as well, the $28,500 loan that was found in Farouk's account that may have gone to pay for things like target practice lessons and even more ammunition in this bomb factory that they lived in out in Redlands, California.
Yeah, and apparently that loan came from an online source, and it wasn't very thoroughly checked out. It was one of those kind of deals, I think.
Right, exactly.
Right. Gernal Scott, Fox News Radio, continuing to follow the story and the new developments in San Bernardino. Gernal, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
All right, we appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. Emails. By the way, I got so into it this morning, I did not give you relevant info. Phone number is 1-800-765-8255. You can text me, 304-TALK-304. Tweet me, @HoppyKirchhoff. email me, talkline@wvmetronews.com. I'm jammed up a little bit here in this first hour. I did set aside 11:06 to 11:20 to weigh in on a couple of things. That would be the latest news on Holgerson and the Trump comments and the fallout thereof. So you're going to get a chance to weigh in on that coming up at 11:06. I'm just telling you that's the best opportunity for phone calls this morning, 11:06 at 1-800-765-8255. Or you can email me anytime, and I'll weave those in or use them in the 11 o'clock hour on Trump and or Dana. Email from Jay Hoppy. So if Dana gets embarrassed in the bowl, he'll be back on the hot seat. I would say yes, because if you take Shane Lyons, the athletics director, at his word, which I would have no reason not to. Let me go to this. So Lyons said that he would return as the head coach. Let me find it here. Because he says continuity is best for our program. Holgerson will be back next year. I know that Dana, his staff, and everyone who supports Mountaineer football was disappointed with how our regular season ended following a 4-game winning streak, Lyons said in his statement. He said that he and Dana are evaluating our football program after the close of the regular season. So he'll be back next year. Now, there's a lot that statement says, and there's a lot that it doesn't say. It is a confirmation he'll be back, but it doesn't answer other questions, which we'll get to here in the next half hour. But imagine this. Let's say, and one scenario would be that Holgerson comes back and nothing changes with the contract. So he has 2 years left. And you know how it goes, that the argument is, well, you need to have more than 2 years for recruiting, and most coaches who would just have 2 years left on the contract are like a dead man walking. So if West Virginia loses the bowl game, and if there is no extension on the contract and hopefully associated with that, a change in the buyout, then Holgerson's seat is red hot coming back for 2017. It absolutely has to be. It has to be. And I would think when all those stories come out about what coaches are on the hot seat, it's going to be him, especially if there's no extension of the contract. But it'll be very, very, very tough to, I think, think of if you lose the bowl game, think of the offseason. And there would be, it would just be a bummer for months before the season began. Email, I don't have time to get to the email right now, but I will because I'm going to take the break. All right, when we come back, again, this issue of we have tens of thousands of West Virginians who, because we're a relatively poor state, simply have not saved very much for retirement, and that catches up with folks, and it's caught up with a lot of West Virginians. We're going to talk about that next, and also Brad Howe and Alan Taylor on the Holgerson story. Then in the 11 o'clock hour, a big consumer settlement in West Virginia. All that and more coming up. This is Talkline on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia. 10:30, let's get a news update. Check in with the Metro News Radio Network and find out what's happening statewide this hour, all across the great state of West Virginia.
West Virginia Metro News, I'm Shauna Johnson. Local school systems will have more control when it comes to how their students are taught under the Every Student Succeeds Act, one President Barack Obama is signing into law. It's made up of revisions to No Child Left Behind that scale back federal involvement in public schools. Both U.S. Senator Joe Manchin and U.S. Senator Shelley Moore Capito voted for and added amendments to the measure that came out of the U.S. Senate Wednesday. How much more will state workers and retirees be paying for health care? Members of the Finance Board for the Public Employees Insurance Agency decide today.
The agency, in a $120 million hole, is proposing a $500 increase for those on an individual plan and $1,000 for those on a family plan. Out-of-pocket maximums will jump $1,500 for one person, $3,000 for a family. The proposed plan also changes the coverage for preferred brand prescription drugs. Copay had been $25. The new plan would take it up to 30% of the total cost. Last month, the board held a series of 6 public meetings, which saw many residents express their disapproval with the proposal. If approved, changes would go into effect next July. I'm Matt McCarrow, WVMetroNews.com.
A minimum package for public health services provided in West Virginia will come from the West Virginia Public Health Impact Task Force. Dr. Raul Gupta, the state's chief health officer, says it's about standardizing health services. You're listening to Metro News for 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Keep up with what's happening in our state at WVMetroNews.com. Whether it's breaking news or the latest political development, high school sports coverage, insights on the Mountaineers or the Thundering Herd, hunting and fishing news, or just the latest weather conditions, your source is WVMetroNews.com. Listen to podcasts at Talkline and Sportsline, or watch video streams of your favorite Metro News programs. You'll find all that and more with one free click at WVMetroNews.com. Metro News is the voice of West Virginia.
There are things that make our lives easier.
You know, locking shoelaces, pizza scissors, remote control mops, one-hand bottle cap openers, and the Know Before You Go driving app.
It's free travel information on West Virginia highways, traffic congestion, work zones, road conditions, information that can make your travel easier. Log on to WV511.org or download the WV511 Drive Safe app.
Know Before You Go. It'll make your life easier.
The supervisor of the State Department of Environmental Protection's Rehabilitation Environmental Action Program calls a recycling grant program an important effort.
This is the only recycling grant program that is in the state, and it's statewide, and we definitely are encouraging recycling throughout the whole state.
Sandy Rogers talking with Metro News after grants totaling more than $2 million were awarded Wednesday for 35 projects in 26 counties. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Shauna Johnson.
Welcome back, Talkline on Metro News. The Feast of the Seven Fishes is going to be Saturday in historic downtown Fairmont. The annual tradition couples Italian-American culinary and cultural traditions with Mountain State holiday cheer. Enjoy Italian foods, live entertainment, a street market, and a Christmas parade. Real tradition. You'll find it here. Wild, wonderful West Virginia. Feast of the Seven Fishes this Saturday in downtown Fairmont. Here's a fact. Most of us have not saved enough for retirement. But then again, those folks who retire always say, you never have enough saved. But for some, it's certainly more critical than others. It's just a problem. Coming up today, the West Virginia Coalition for Retirement Options is holding a forum today at Embassy Suites in downtown Charleston. And one of those speaking at that conference is David John. David John is a senior strategic policy advisor at the AARP Public Policy Institute, which focuses on pension and retirement savings issues. David, welcome back to West Virginia. It's good to talk to you again.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Thank you, sir. So how bad is it out there?
It's very bad, actually. In West Virginia, we've got about 250,000 people who don't have the ability to save for retirement at work. And we know that if you don't have a payroll deduction retirement savings plan, 19 out of 20 people don't save at all.
So what should we do about that? I mean, I don't want to say that's their problem, but isn't it an individual's responsibility to save for himself or herself to try to deal that as much as they can early on in life?
Well, it is, but it has to be something that is facilitated, something that becomes easier. We have an awful lot of people at all income levels and all ages that when they're faced with big decisions like saving and how do I invest, they freeze because they don't know what the answer is. So what we're looking at is, along with 25 other states, is a state-sponsored retirement savings plan somewhat similar to the state's 529 college savings plan.
Mm-hmm. So how would that work?
It would be a plan that the state would sponsor. The actual activities would be handled by the private sector, just like the 529 plan is right now. And when a small business employee, because this is for small business for the most part, signs up or is hired, in addition to setting up the deductions for income taxes and Social Security taxes and the like, they'd set up a deduction for the retirement savings plan.
Mm-hmm. David John is with us, and he is a senior strategic policy advisor for AARP. They're having a session today in Charleston on retirement. But again, I come back to the point, I'm all in on savings, but couldn't an employee do that on his or her own? And again, it's challenging and it can be confusing, but can't you go to the broker and say, I want to set up a savings account?
You can do that, but the problem is that this is a complex area, and people believe it's a complex area, so they don't do it, essentially. We have roughly 1 out of 20 people who actually does that if they don't have an employer-sponsored retirement savings plan. And it's important for us in West Virginia because if people retire on just Social Security, which is about $14,000 a year. It's a wonderful program, but it doesn't pay enough for a sufficient retirement. They are going to need services from the taxpayer. And these are going to be things like medical services through Medicaid or similar programs, or housing services, or a variety of others. And as we come up with more and more people who are retiring without a traditional pension plan, that they're going to either save for themselves through an easy plan, or they're going to fall back on the taxpayer. And that's just not really fair to our kids and our grandkids.
David, so under this plan you're talking about, this state-run or state-sponsored plan, then employers could participate, but would they have any liability? Would they make a contribution? Would they have any additional paperwork?
No, they would have the additional paperwork that they'd have to set up a payroll deduction, just like the W-9 form for setting up income tax deduction. They would not have any liability. They would not be required to contribute any money. And because all of the functions are actually handled at the plan level, the state level, essentially they don't have any decisions to make or anything along that line. It's just a matter of handing the paperwork to their employees, asking them to make a decision on this, or auto-enrolling them, and then setting up the payroll deduction, and that's it.
David, I know what the federal government's done with my Social Security money, and yours too, and that is they've spent it and put IOUs in there. Why should I trust the state to invest my money?
Because it's your personal property, and the state is legally not allowed to touch it. So just as your retirement savings through a 401k plan or your 529 college savings or something like that, it's your personal property. It's not there for the state or anybody else to touch.
Maybe as part of this, if you ever got this through the legislature, there should be a proviso, I hate to say, make another requirement to public education, but they should study the concept of the miracle of compounding interest at some point in high school.
I couldn't agree more. I've got a daughter at the moment in the Jefferson County schools in the 7th grade, and other than the fact that we talk about it at home, it's not part of the curriculum as far as I can see.
Yeah, but I mean, the difference between starting at 22 and starting at 32 is unbelievable.
Oh, it's huge. The earlier you can save and the more you can save early on, the more likely you are to end up with a successful result.
David, I think you all have had this bill before. I'm not sure it's gotten any traction, so you give it another shot in 2017, I guess.
We'll give it another shot. It's in one different thing from last time is last time West Virginia was going to be one of the first. Now we've got 25 states that are working on this. Illinois, Oregon, and Washington State have already passed something, and they're implementing different models. California, New Jersey, North Dakota, and Utah are looking at it. I mean, we've got 25 looking at it, but they're both red and blue states. So this is not a partisan issue. This is an issue of allowing people to make their own preparations and build their own resources.
David John with a Senior Strategic Policy Advisor with AARP. David, a pleasure. Good to talk to you again. We'll see you in Charleston.
Sounds great. Take care.
Thank you very much. When we come back, it is amazing. I mean, if you do the actuarial table, if you start saving, and people are like, well, how can I save money? I'm not. But if you start saving at 32 instead of 22, or vice versa, the difference is unbelievable. Okay, when we come back, so Shane Lyons says Dana will be back. But that's all he said. What does it all mean? Brad Howe and Alan Taylor next.
In this season of giving, consider donating your used vehicle to Good News Mountaineer Garage. You'll get the best tax deduction possible and the satisfaction of knowing your donation changed the life of someone in need. Good News Mountaineer Garage repairs donated vehicles and provides them to qualified West Virginia families, giving them access to employment, safe, affordable housing, health care, and other vital necessities, and putting them on the road to economic independence. Call 1-866-GIVE-CAR today for Good News Mountaineer Garage. 866-GIVE-CAR.
Hunger, injustice, poverty. We see it, but what can we really do? Where is the hope? The hope is in you, and Catholic Charities West Virginia can help you extend hope, grace, and mercy to the most vulnerable in our communities. They're calling all people of goodwill to serve our brothers and sisters mired in poverty, burdened with disease and injustice. Join with Catholic Charities West Virginia and change a world. Visit CatholicCharitiesWV.org because the hope is in you.
Hi, it's Tony Caridi with a question. What can a video do for you? Well, if you're in business or part of an organization, let me tell you what videos have done for our clients at Pikewood Creative. Our commercials have generated millions of dollars in new business. Our long-form videos have helped capital campaigns raise tens of millions of dollars. That's what a video can do for you. If you have a need, then visit us at pikewoodcreative.com. That's Pikewood Creative.
This is Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. So last night, at 8 o'clock, 7:40. It was exactly 7:41. This statement came to my email box from Athletics Director Shane Lyons. Quote, Dana Holgerson will return as our head football coach in 2016. After evaluating our football program after the close of the regular season, I believe that continuity is best for our program. I know that Dana, his staff, and everyone who supports Mountaineer football was disappointed with how our regular season ended following a 4-game winning streak. Dana and I will continue to work together to strengthen our football program. No one wants to win more than Dana and I. Shouldn't it be Dana and me? Anyway, Dana and I, and we will work together to ensure success. Brad Howe and Alan Taylor of Metro News Sports. Alan Taylor filed the story at WVMetroNews.com. Brad Howe and Alan join us. Brad, what's this mean?
Means that Dana Holgerson will be the head coach in 2016.
Unequivocally, no doubt, no question, right? So it settles it.
I mean, I think because they said it like that. I mean, it wasn't just worded as he'll remain as our football coach. It said specifically in 2016. So I think don't read into it any more than what it says there exactly. My understanding is all this was done was to squelch the rumors that had kind of taken over the internet yesterday, that there was some talk that Dana may not return.
Right.
So I know we've got a bunch of other issues to cover here, but as far as that statement, that simply tells me Dana will be coaching this Mountaineer team in 2016. Stop right there.
Yeah, I think you're right in that the rumor mill was really rampant. the last couple of days, and this is sort of a statement that says, let's just quell that and say he will be back in 2016. But that in and of itself, and some people say, well, that's not really that newsy. Well, it is in the sense that some people thought he was going to be fired. We thought that if he wasn't fired Sunday or Monday that he wasn't going to be fired, especially since he got $75,000 retention bonus after Tuesday. So, but it's also significant for what it doesn't say, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part of this is what it doesn't say. There was no announcement about an extension. And again, you know my stance on this. I've been talking about it since August. My understanding is that still may come down the road. There's still got to be talks about extending this contract. Part of why this was such a hot button yesterday, Hoppy, is the assistant coaches are out on the road recruiting. And we talk all the time about how coaches' contracts come up. Well, imagine being a West Virginia assistant coach sitting in the living room of a recruit and having this come up. Because remember, recruits can access more information now than they could 5 years ago. They see all this stuff flying around Twitter. You've got an assistant, and you may have Dana sitting in your living room. You don't think this is going to come up. So the timing is extremely important, but we've still got the issue of what happens past 2016. Something has to get done in terms of an extension. I think that's what this next stage is, and that's what's coming next.
Well, but will anything happen prior to next season? By that, I mean, now, since the statement has been made that he will be back, what's the impetus for Dana if WVU wanted to renegotiate the buyout, okay, and extend? What's the impetus for Dana and his people to come to the table on that? Say, I'm already in for next year, so why? I mean,
because I'll say this, and here's why I keep talking about this for months, saying it's so unusual to be in the position West Virginia is about to be in. Last year, Hoppy, in Power 5 football programs, there were only 2 coaches that had 2 years remaining on their contract. Tim Beckman at Illinois, Mike London at Virginia. Beckman was fired the week before this season. London was fired just a couple of weeks ago at the end of the season. So it's extremely rare to leave 2 years. We can debate the merits of recruits and whether they actually buy into that. I'm just telling you, it's rare to have only 2 years remaining. So because it's so rare that the university, WVU, is most likely going to be pitching a renewal to Dana. It has to lower the buyout. We know that. We've been through that. The impetus for Dana is he's going to continue to get these questions when you're trying to recruit. If I'm another school, the information I just gave you, I am using against West Virginia on the road. If a kid is evaluating between Texas Tech and West Virginia, and I'm a Texas Tech coach, I'm saying, hey, listen, you can go to West Virginia. It's a wonderful place. Just make sure you're picking it because of the school, not because of the coach, because this guy doesn't have a contract past next season. I don't know what's going to happen. The last 2 guys that had contracts like that were fired.
Yeah.
That's why it becomes such an important topic. This just doesn't happen very often in Division I Power 5 football.
Brad Howes with us, Metro News Sports. So if nothing changed, if nothing happens, he's got 2 years on the contract. If West Virginia would lose the bowl game, which would put even more of a damper on the season, it seems to me you have taken the enthusiasm down another notch for next season, and B, you have a dead man walking going into the year.
Yeah, you may, but remember, let's talk about this extension for a second, Hoppy, because quite frankly, the years that you give to Dana Holgorsen don't really matter. I mean, you can give him 2, you can give him 3, you can give him 6 more. The years don't matter as long as that buyout comes down so that it's a manageable number from the university side that they can make a change if they so desire 1 year from now, 2 years from now, or 3 years from now. So the term of the contract isn't relevant. It was only relevant in this last contract because it was, quite frankly, such a bad contract for the university that was fully guaranteed. That's why it mattered. So you can give him more years, just get the buyout down, and then you can decide what to do with Dana's job status either this time next year or you can move it on into the future. That's the most important part of this is the buyout dollar amount, not necessarily the terms on the extension.
Boy, I just don't get a sense, though, that there is buy-in by everybody. This is just a generalization. But just that do you get a feel that that WVU, and that is Lyons and Gee, that they really want Holgorsen to stay, and they know things on the uptick, and it's just let's get through, let's weather this, and that Holgorsen really is a great fit here and wants to be. I mean, do you get any sense of that? I just don't get any sense that the fans really say, well, I'm glad we're divided, but we're glad he's going to stay because we see optimism. I don't get any of that vibe.
No, I think you're right. But a lot of times in these situations, there's very rare instances where it's very black and white. Most of these decisions have to be made in the gray area, and I think that's where you're at. I mean, you could argue that Dana's had plenty of time to show you what he's all about, and so you don't need any more time to evaluate him. But Shane Lyons has only been here a year. President Gordon Gee's relatively new. Maybe they feel that there's more time. But if you don't feel you're ready to pull the trigger and remove this entire staff, which again is an $8+ million venture, and I know we're talking about $1 billion institution in WVU, hundreds of millions, closing in on $100 million budget for the athletics. I get that there's a lot of money floating around, but $8 million to ask people to not come to work, that's a heck of an investment. So if you're the university, I could see where you say, well, this thing hasn't bottomed out. There were some good things. And again, as long as the buyout is manageable, what's the harm in going a couple more years because you can buy the thing out?
I wonder, though, that the fact that the university kind of rushed out this statement last night, indicates that there'd already been some conversations, and I know there had been conversations between Shane and Holgorsen, that he was coming back. So then, again, I come back to, doesn't that somewhat undermine the university's leverage if they wanted to negotiate a lower buyout? Because if you and I sat down and I said, okay, Coach, you want to come back, then we got to lower the buyout. Well, now you've already said he's coming back. So I keep coming back to that. And
but I think that's where the term does matter because there's only 2 years left. So here's how I'd see that playing out. If you're Shane Lyons, you call up Dana's agent and you say, hey, listen, we're interested, as you saw from the statement, we're interested in Dana coming back for next year. We know he only has 2 years remaining. Here's our renewal proposal. We're going to add 3 years on there, but we're going to drop the buyout to whatever, $2 million, $2.5 million, $3 million, whatever you're comfortable with, and you push that proposal across the table. If Dana and his folks say, well, no, I'm not accepting that. I have a fully guaranteed contract right now. I'm not accepting that. Then Shane Lyons can always just say, okay, best of luck. We'll go into battle next year with 2 years remaining. And then this time next year, it sets up this exact same scenario, but what's the major difference, Hop? The buyout has now dropped to only the 1 year that's left on the contract that is right in that $3 million range.
But do you damage the program because you do, again, have a dead man walking, like, oh, this isn't going to work out, and they're not as interested, and the coaches aren't as interested, you can't recruit, all those things. So don't you damage the program with that? Oh,
yes.
Okay.
So, just simply yes. If it comes to that scenario that West Virginia presents what it feels is a reasonable renewal offer, and Dana Holgorsen rejects that renewal offer for whatever reason, is there damage to the program? Yes, to some extent.
Well, I tell you, I think that now if you go out and you lay wood on the bowl game, then you got something you can build on for the next season. But if you don't, then it's going to be a tough sell, man. With season ticket sales down, going to be a tough sell. So.
It is, and I'll say this again, and people are probably tired of me beating this drum. That's exactly right, and that's why you don't want to put yourself in this kind of situation. But that contract that Dana was given last time around has made it so the university has really no choice. What are its choices? Extend a guy that right now is not very popular based on the opinion we've seen and the calls we get and the text messages we get, and that will become less so with a bowl loss, or pay $8 million for people to not come to work. That's not a good situation either. They're in a tough spot right now.
Would everybody, regardless of what you think of Oliver Luck, whether you adore him and think he's the greatest thing ever happened to the university, or you don't like him, whatever, could there be an acknowledgement by everyone who has some knowledge of contract negotiation and fiscal responsibility of the corner that he put this university in through the contract he negotiated in air quotes?
I don't know how that you can look at this contract in any other way than what you just said. It has handcuffed the institution from being able to make a change if it wanted to.
If it wanted to.
I mean, that's the important point there. If it wanted to make a change, you have to think long and hard about dropping that kind of money in a state like that.
If you had a buyout of $3 million, I bet he would have been fired.
Yeah, and again, if you want to make a change, $3 million is a big difference from 6
or 9
to the head coach and another couple million.
All right, I got to go. Brad Howe, we appreciate it. Good talking to you. I'm late. We'll be right back.
Would you go to a dentist for joint replacement surgery?
No.
Would you go to the barber shop to get your prescription filled?
Goodness, no.
Would you ask your preacher for advice on how to fix your toilet?
Of course not.
Then why would you trust some guy down the street who gives you the cheapest bid to remodel, repair, or even build your home? You need a licensed professional contractor who knows what they're doing. It's your home. You have to live there. Why settle for anything less than the best?
Your dreams built by the best. Contact the Home Builders Association of West Virginia for a list of professionals in your area. Go to hbawv.org today. This message brought to you by our marketing partners, Lowe's of North Central West Virginia, Brick Street, 84 Lumber, Federal Home Loan Bank of Pittsburgh, ProBuild, SJ Neathawk, Valcon, Windcor, and West Virginia Housing Development Fund. Your dreams built by the best. The Home Builders Association of West Virginia. Go to hbawv.org today.
You're listening to Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program. Email from Brian. Hoppy, I thought this was the year that he had to show improvement. For the last 4 years, including now, all I've heard from Dana apologists is, I feel like next year is the year. Forget feelings, look at the facts. Losing record in Big 12, losing record versus top 25. Does he even have a winning record against winning teams? The worst thing that could happen is West Virginia has a fluke decent year next year and re-ups Hogerson. Hogerson heading into 2016 with not a lot of gas in the tank. We'll be back in 6 minutes. Talkline on Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of Talkline on the Metro News Radio Network in and around the great state of West Virginia. Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank member, FDIC. Hoppy, it's correct. Nobody wants to win more than Dana and I. That's definitely correct. All you have to do is add do after. Nobody wants to win more than Dana and I do. Well, I was suggesting that maybe it would be Dana and me, but I don't trust me on any grammar. Nevertheless, I digress. Now, for about 15 minutes here, we have open phones at 1-800-765-8255, 1-800-765-TALK. Your take on Athletics Director Shane Lyons' announcement that Dana will be back next season as the head coach. Everything else is still up in the air, whether or not there will be a negotiated extension or buyout. There's no mention of that. So, and I hate to assume because you just don't know. I just have a feeling that that's not the end of it. Because I think that it feels to me like this statement was rushed out because there'd been so much speculation that Holgerson was going to get fired. That get something out there. He's going to be back. He's going to be back. Just settle that so it doesn't kill recruiting or whatever, or doesn't continue to feed the speculation. Because I tell you anymore, especially in sports, if something gets out there, if there's a story out there that gets some traction, then everybody picks up on it. Then there are the aggregators, and we all aggregate to a certain degree anymore, and it just becomes fact, or everybody starts talking about it. On the Donald Trump thing, you heard Shelley Moore Capito 1 hour ago say that she definitely disagrees with Republican frontrunner Donald Trump's argument that we should have a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States. That's what he said initially. He did come back and say this would be temporary until just get a handle on what's going on. So do you agree or disagree with Donald Trump's statement? Meantime, there is a new poll out. Where is that? The new CBS poll. New CBS poll out, which, by the way, was taken prior to the Muslim dust-up, which says that Trump is expanding his lead. I had it here somewhere. I can't find it now, but it says that Trump's expanding his lead. Karl Rove has a piece in the Wall Street Journal today saying that if Trump is the nominee, it is the Democrats' dream, according to Karl Rove. Rove says the Donald's favorability rating in the Quinnipiac survey was the worst of the 12 Democratic and Republican candidates tested, 35% favorable and 57% unfavorable. That was lower than even Mrs. Clinton at 44% and 51%. Dig into the demographic breakdown, and Mr. Trump's numbers look abysmal. 60% of independents dislike him, along with 69% of voters 18 to 34, 84% of Latinos, 87% of blacks. So while Trump continues to lead among Republican candidates, and in fact has extended his lead, if you look at what the numbers say now about a potential matchup with Hillary Clinton, according to some of the surveys and according to Karl Rove's analysis, you got a problem. And pollsters or campaigns worry in particular about those negatives. If you had 35% favorable, but 40 or 50% or 20, 30 or 40, weren't sure, didn't know, waiting for more information, you could say, okay, well, that's a movable number. But when you have a high unfavorable, an unfavorable above 50%, that's a problem. Because that means people have already made up their minds about you and they don't like you. So now you have to not only convince them to like you, but then to vote for you. That's why there is this absolute panic within the established Republican Party right now, because they fear that Trump might just, in fact, pull this thing off. And if he does, then he'll get lambasted in the general election. You'll have Hillary Clinton for 8 years. And in fact, the fear is that Trump could be so bad nationally, it could trickle down and have a lasting effect on the Republican Party. Somebody told me they called it like the William Jennings Bryan effect of the Democratic Party. Remember it? Well, you don't remember, but I mean, William Jennings Bryan was the Democratic nominee in the late 1800s, early 1900s, whatever. I think for 2 or 3 times, and the Democrats just got blasted until 1932. And then everything changed in 1932. All right, so do you agree or disagree with Trump's statement? And also your take on Shane Lyons' statement about Dana. 1-800-765-8255. Email talkline@wvmetronews.com. Tweet me at Hoppy Kercheval. Text me 304-TALK-304. Hoppy, you're a little transparent on how you feel about luck. It's time to move on. It is absolutely more relevant than ever. My observation is based on this, that one of the bigger stories in West Virginia right now is whether or not is Dana Holgerson's status as the head coach of West Virginia and what his future is. And it is evident that those decisions are impacted by the previous contract that was negotiated. Those are statements of fact. David in Bridgeport. Hi, David. Welcome in. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Hey, I do remember Williams Jennings Bryan. I'm 167. I drink.
You would, yeah. You would remember William Jennings Bryan in the Scopes monkey trial. You were probably there in the audience.
Yes. It was quite an experience.
Yeah.
But, hey, I wanted to say, first of all, I'll give you the Oliver Luck thing. Terrible contract.
Okay.
Give that to you right up front, what you were saying. I'm an Ollie fan, simply going back to when Don Nealon affectionately said Ollie and they beat Florida in the Peach Bowl.
Yeah.
But I want to say about Shane Lyons. I think very prudent, very good business decision at this point, and two reasons why. I mean, just think if he tries to make this call or sale, whatever you want to call it, if we get hammered in the bowl game, and you have to do it, because recruiting going on right now, you have to come out and make that statement right away. But I think good decision on his part.
What's your scenario? I mean, what do you want to happen? Because there's still a couple of things to fall in place here. What do you want to happen?
Well, I've always been, I guess you would call me a Dana apologist. Not sure why. I just pull for him.
That's fine.
But I think this. I like the thing about the staff. You do have great continuity. You do have a great staff. And I think about it this way, too. Whatever he has learned or not learned, people can argue that, he's learned it on your dime for the last 5 years. And I think it's just wise to kind of check it 1 year, maybe just 1 year, 2 year, and see where it goes. But I think it's a good decision by Shane Lyons not to pull the plug on that and start all over again.
Yeah.
Because, again, he has learned on your dime, and again, I know 7-5, but I think if you give it a little bit of time, I might like to see it work, obviously. But then you throw out what coaches would you get right now anyway if you did do that? But I think his decision to do it now, and I think Holgerson, he've already discussed or have been discussing the contract. I think it would be naive not to think that Holgerson is already saying, I'm going to say yes to what you say on the buyout. I'm going to make this decision, right away before the bowl game. Because if he tanks it in the bowl game, I mean, then Shane Lyons tries to come out and tell us that we're going to extend him again next year or have another year. Then really the natives are going to be more restless than they are.
Got it, David.
It's a big story.
It is a big story. David, I appreciate the call. David wants to see Dana succeed, and kind of, you don't have to apologize for being an apologist. You can say, I like the guy, I want to give him more time. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. David, thanks for the call. 1-800-765-8255. Email talkline@wvmetronews.com. Tweet me at Hoppy Kercheval. Text me 304-TALK-304. Tweet me, tweet Hoppy, explain to me the difference between what Jimmy Carter did to Iranians and what Trump is talking about now. 2 points I'll make about that. One is I do think there's a difference, there's a structural difference between action taken against a nation, a particular nation, where if you're from that nation, you'd be identified by your passport. This person is Iranian. They're holding Americans captive. This is virtually a state of war. And you're putting economic pressure on them. You're freezing their accounts, whatever else you did. So it's an identifiable sovereign nation, which I think is structurally different from an ideology. I mean, you're talking about trying to block an ideology that is Muslim, a particular religion, from entering the country. I don't even know how you enforce that. I don't even know how do you. I mean, it makes sense if you say, well, somebody's traveling here from Syria. You go, wait a minute, we need to take a closer look here at this. But how do you, What's the Muslim test? Are you a Muslim? Are you not? How do you even do that? First of all. And second of all, for those who support this, I don't get this either. For those of you who support what Trump wants to do, I've been getting the text and emails say, well, Jimmy Carter did it. Do you really want to hold up Jimmy Carter as the example of what you want to follow? I mean, Jimmy Carter's presidency was a terrible failure. Now we have Republicans and conservatives who back Trump saying, well, Carter did it. Is that the standard that you want to use for the argument? I would not go there. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Randy. Hey, Randy, welcome in. For or against the Trump statement?
I'm for it. I don't understand where all the concern for Muslims is. What happened to all the concerns for Christians in this country? They're getting, I think this country gets what they deserve, and we'll probably end up with Hillary.
Thank you for the call. Let's go to Dan in Charleston. Dan, what do you say?
Well, I agree with Trump's the idea. I think the best way to go about this is to be probably maybe stand the legal test. I'm certainly no lawyer and wouldn't want that label. But he can actually just say under executive order that no one from, and just list every Muslim nation out there, we're not taking you right now. And has nothing to do with religion. It just says nobody that's born within any of these following nations, and just give a long list of them. You don't get in until we can figure out how to get credentials on you, and we can figure out how to check them, and the whole works. That gets around this whole argument. Oh, you can't go against a religion. Well, we'll go against countries.
Well, that's a lot of countries. I mean, there's a lot of...
Doesn't make any difference.
Well, okay. Thanks for the call. That's, let's see. Well, the Middle Eastern countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, any Middle Eastern country. By the way, and there are Muslims in the Israeli Knesset. Because Trump was, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Trump was going to go to Israel. He's canceled that trip now because it's controversial. There are 20%, I think, or 2 dozen members of the Israeli Knesset are Muslim. Indonesia, there's Muslims in every country. So are you going to say to every country, well, you can't come in? I'm not, look, to me, this is not I'm not falling for the leftist talk on this. I just think, A, it's impractical. B, it is absolutely sends the wrong message to friendly allies that we need in the fight against radical Islam. Doug on a cell phone. Hey, Doug, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Fine, sir. What do you say?
Well, I think if I remember my history correctly, we have had about 50 years of immigration. And we had a pause, I think, from 25 to 65 or something. Anyway, we had a long pause in immigration. And I thought for some time that instead of having particular people not come in, we just have a pause for immigration period. The visas and things are a different issue. But we need to have time to assimilate the people that are here. And also, we have, 10, 15 million illegals?
10 to 15.
I think it's time to take a pause.
All right, I'm going to take a break. I'll be back. Thanks for the call. We'll return in just a moment. Stay with us.
When you drive impaired in West Virginia, you break the law and endanger the lives of others. Law enforcement across the state is committed to keeping impaired drivers off the road. If you drive impaired, be prepared to pay the price. There are consequences. It's simple, West Virginia. Drive sober or get pulled over.
True to its motto, wild and wonderful, West Virginia is the third most forested state in the country for landmass and has 7 million more forested acres now than 100 years ago. The mountain state is abundantly blessed with valuable renewable forest resources, which naturally regenerate for future generations. Forestry is the basis for over 5,000 separate wood and paper products, creating millions of dollars in state revenue from business income and property taxes. A message from the West Virginia Forestry Association, WVFA.org.
It's here, the year-end blockbuster sales event at your Central West Virginia Jeep Giant. Northside Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram trucks in Summersville. Inventory is huge, and so are the savings. Come on in now for this deal. A 2016 Jeep Cherokee Latitude 4x4 cold weather group. Yep, you're going to need it. Satellite radio. Retail price $29,230. Blockbuster price $24,999. You save over $4,200. It's only the beginning. See us in person or online at northsidewv.com.
This is Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
Talkline on Metro News. Correct me if I'm wrong here, because I'm not an expert in the history of immigration, but I know that it has come in waves. Number one. Number two, I think the period that you referred to, 1960, or after World War II, that it was a down wave. And it wasn't that immigration was banned, I don't think. I think there were qualitative and quantitative restrictions and quotas on immigration during that period, I believe, but correct me if I'm wrong. And also, even during that time, I mean, you're talking about the Depression, there was even some outward migration during that time. Now, let's go to Jerusalem. Fox News Radio's Jessica Gallagher is there. And Jessica, Donald Trump was going to Israel, and he was going to meet with the Prime Minister of Israel, but that's all been changed, right?
It has. Several hours ago, Trump told Fox News that he didn't want to make things difficult for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, that you were supposed to meet, and that he would visit Israel after he becomes president. There's been a lot of backlash here from many of the people that I've talked to about Trump's comments on Monday, saying that the United States should temporarily ban Muslims from entering the country. There were more than 30 members of Israel's parliament here who sent an open letter to the prime minister saying that he should condemn Trump's comments and that he should not meet with Trump. But earlier in the year, Netanyahu had made a blanket statement that he would meet with any presidential candidate. It did not matter which party they were from. But one thing also that's important to note is that Netanyahu did condemn Trump's comments, but this is the same leader that on the eve of the general elections here was chastised for saying that if he were reelected, there would never be a two-state solution here, and that Israelis needed to get out and vote or that Jews needed to get out and vote because, quote-unquote, the Arabs were out voting in droves. So he had really gotten a lot of backlash for that. So many people here sort of taking his statement condemning Trump's comments with a grain of salt.
Jessica Gallagher in Jerusalem. And it's sometimes we look at Israel in this sort of monolithic way. Okay, it's the Jewish state, but there are obviously a lot of Muslims who live there, and even Muslims, as you said, in the Knesset.
Absolutely, and we have to remember it's not really the Jewish state because you're leaving out 20% of the population. Many people here are Jews, but there are Arab Christians, there are Muslims, there are all sorts of people that live here. And there are Arab members in Parliament, and one of them had actually tweeted on Wednesday that Trump should not come here. Another member of Parliament called Trump a neo-Nazi. And just even in general population here with the folks that I've spoken to, a lot of people are just saying, wow, this man is running for president in the United States. We think of the United States as such a great country. Is this really what people want? Because his numbers went up in the polls after he made these comments. And as a person who doesn't live in the United States and hasn't for many years, that is a valid question. Do people really want someone leading the country who's making these sort of inflammatory, and not to mention what many are saying as derogatory comments? It's a big question over here.
Jessica Gallagher, Fox News Radio in Jerusalem, thank you very much. Appreciate the insights.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Thank you very much. The answer to your question is there is a certain percentage of America that does, and according to the latest poll, that percentage is growing. Ken in Martinsburg, listening to WEPM. Hey, Ken, what do you say?
Hey, Hoppy, I agree with you a little bit. Why are we so reactionary as a nation when something happens? I mean, I thought that it was pretty much done. I mean, any idiot would not believe this would already be doing. That if you're on a no-fly list, you can still come over here and buy a gun. Well, there's a reason why you're on a no-fly list. I was talking to some of my clients, like, well, what happens to do by mistake? Well, if you're on the IRS, if they try to, you better your taxes, then you contact them.
Yeah.
Then you contact the NSA or whoever, get off the list. But, people are, there are mistakes that are done. But I just don't, why are we so reactionary as a nation?
Because I think because when something happens, our nature is to throw up our hands and go, oh, my God, do something. And sometimes that something is good, and sometimes it's not so good. But we always say, oh, my God, what are we going to do? We got to do something.
Yeah.
Do you buy into Trump? Do you support or oppose Trump's comments or Trump's proposal?
I'm against it. I mean, it's totally unconstitutional. I mean, we should already be vetting these people to begin with. I mean, so, we already have an immigration system, and, tweak it out and do what needs to be done with it. And, stop being reactionary and look forward to what can happen instead of, well, what just happened? How can we fix it? Well, we should look ahead and fix what could happen.
Ken, I appreciate the call. I got a break. Ken calling in from Martinsburg. We'll take a break and come back. More phone calls coming up. More emails, more texts, more tweets at 1-800-765-8255. Email talkline at wvmetronews.com. Send me a tweet at Hoppy Kercheval. Text me 304-TALK-304. I got a little breaking news when we come back. Talkline on Metro News, the voice of West Virginia. 11:30, let's get a news update. Check in with the Metro News Radio Network. Find out what's happening statewide this hour, all across the great state of West Virginia.
West Virginia Metro News, I'm Shauna Johnson. Preserving American values in the fight against ISIS is what the state's Republican Party chair says is important.
While he did not offer any comments that criticize Republican presidential frontrunner Donald Trump's latest proposal to stop all Muslim entry into the United States, State GOP Chairman Conrad Lucas says the issue in this country is about security. He says Americans have been scared for their safety of the screening process following the recent attacks in San Bernardino and Paris.
And that's really where we should spend our attention, is looking at how do we ensure the safety of American citizens while preserving the very fundamental principles that made us the nation that we are.
Trump said the shutdown of Muslims entering the U.S. would be, quote, until our country's representatives can figure out what is going on. Much criticism has surfaced about Trump's comments and the fact that he currently leads the polls, but Lucas says a lot can change leading up to the primary election. I'm Carrie Hudasek, WVMetroNews.com.
More than 11,000 West Virginians have enrolled so far for health insurance plans being offered through the state's marketplace. That number includes new enrollees and returners at healthcare.gov, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Despite another round of state budget cuts, Marshall University's faculty and staff members will see pay raises of 2% in the new year. West Virginia University head football coach Dana Holgerson will lead the Mountaineers in 2016. So says University Athletic Director Shane Lyons. You're listening to Metro News for 30 years of Voice of West Virginia.
I'm Chris Lawrence, and I love it when you send me pics of the game and fish you've bagged. I show them off at the outdoors page of WVMetroNews.com in the Ram Trucks Trophy Room. But now we've stepped it up a notch. Each month from now through January, we'll have a random drawing of those who send us a picture for really cool prizes. See how to enter and submit your trophy pics at the outdoors page of WVMetroNews.com. Make it a tasteful photo, and if it's a trophy to you, it's a trophy to us. The Ram Trophy Room at the outdoors page of WVMetroNews.com.
A study from England shows that men spend more time each day looking at themselves than women. Well, believe that study or not, the point is we all want to look our best all the time. Well, the same holds true for businesses. We judge businesses, in fact, by their look. At Pipewood Creative, we produce videos and commercials that make businesses look their very best. And you know what? It improves their business. They get more customers and clients. If you'd like your business to look better, then check us out at pipewoodcreative.com.
An interactive mobile classroom teaching students about the real-life effects of drugs is making stops at high schools in Harrison County. Bill Ehlenfeld, U.S. Attorney for West Virginia's Northern District, pushed for the On-the-Move bus.
I was sort of the squeaky wheel that got the grease, I think, because I knew that this trailer had come to other counties within the Appalachia-Haida region. I kept asking, and finally they said, okay.
Read more about On the Move at WVMetroNews.com. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Shauna Johnson.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. Here in West Virginia, there are two great jackpot games you can play from the West Virginia Lottery. I thought I'd passed all that. My voice changing. Powerball has drawings on Wednesdays. What happened is I've switched microphones because I like the sound of this microphone better. It actually makes my voice sound a little bit deeper. So now I've been, even more than before, falling in love with my own voice. So I've been trying to, anyway. Never mind. Forget it. Here in West Virginia, there are two great jackpot games you can play from the West Virginia Lottery. Powerball has drawings on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Mega Millions has drawings on Tuesdays and Fridays. The Powerball jackpot is $164 million. Mega Millions jackpot is $66 million. Please play responsibly. I'm not going to be able to be on the radio forever. I got to take advantage of it while I can. This is the story that is just hitting the Attorney General's office, Patrick Morrisey's office, announcing an estimated $160 million settlement between the state of West Virginia and Frontier Communications. The settlement, according to the AG's office, is in response to complaints from customers who were paying for high-speed internet that they were not receiving. According to the Attorney General, customers expected a speed of up to 6 megabytes per second and were getting less than 1.5 or lower. Frontier, the AG's office says, and I haven't talked to Frontier, Frontier denies allegations of any wrongdoing and entered into the agreement to avoid protracted litigation. Now, according to the settlement, according to the AG's office, this $160 million settlement, $150 million will be required to be spent on infrastructure upgrades throughout the state, and $10 million will be in direct reductions to consumers' monthly internet bills. Also, there's going to be, I think, $500,000 that will go into the AG's Consumer Protection Fund. All this will take place over a 3-year period. Morrissey says that this $150 million in infrastructure upgrades will be in addition to $180 million in upgrades already planned by Frontier. Morrissey said this could be the largest independently negotiated consumer protection settlement in the state's history because it was done totally by in office. The reason they're qualifying that is because the largest settlement would have been a tobacco settlement, which was negotiated by outside counsel. So the Attorney General announcing today a $160 million settlement with Frontier Communications of West Virginia because, according to Morrissey, that there was high-speed internet promise that was not delivered. According to Morrissey, Frontier denies wrongdoing, says it entered into the agreement to avoid protracted litigation. Tom on a cell phone. Tom, thanks for waiting. Welcome to Talkline.
Hey, Hoppy, how you doing?
I'm well, sir. Glad you called.
Hop, here's the thing, we're both from West Virginia, and we know a lot of Syrians. There's a lot of Syrians in West Virginia. And I know I worked for Syrians, and they're just like Trump says, they're amazing people. They're fantastic people. I could think when I was in college, there's a Syrian businessman from Charleston. He used to give me shirts and ties, so I'd look good, I mean, that was the kind of people they were. And I'm not going to drop any names, but I probably know some of the most famous Syrian businessmen in West Virginia. But here's the deal. Why do you think they came here? They came here to get away from the Muslims. That was why they came here. They didn't, they were being persecuted, the Syrian Christians, Lebanese Christians. They were being persecuted by the Muslims. So they moved over here to the United States. And there was nothing wrong with that. They've made a tremendous contribution to this country. But there's one heck of a big difference. It's a cult. Islam is a cult. And we don't know what these people are liable to do. We don't have a handle on it.
But you can't look at Islam in a monolithic way. I mean, there's millions.
Sorry, you can. I do, and you can. And it's a cult. You got to take a look at the Quran and what the Quran says. Those people are really they got cult beliefs, and we're just not used to dealing with it. Sure, there's probably a percentage of Muslims that that could be compatible with the West, but why take a chance when we've got these nutcases who are coming over here and killing people? And I'll say this to my friends in Charleston too: the next outburst that happens and some Americans get killed by one of these Muslim radicals, just like I saw they picked a guy up today up in Minnesota. The next time that happens, every one of these politicians are going to be lying and denying.
But let me go back. I don't understand how you can view the religion of Islam in a monolithic way.
I do. It's their history. They got a history of it, Hoppy.
But if it is, if you're going to lump it all into cult status, why do Muslims kill Muslims? I mean, because there's different views. There's a multitude of views within
Islam.
Let them
kill each other. Or kill each other over there.
All right, we'll take a break and be back. 1-800-7. Not a break. We'll get another call. Thanks for the call. Okay. Let's go to Steve on his cell phone. Hey, Steve, welcome in. How are you?
I'm well, Hoppy. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
And let me just go to a bigger point with the Trump thing, whether I do or don't agree with his comment at this point. I think the bigger thing you have to look at is the fact that for so long we've had a president that refuses to even acknowledge Islamic extremism. So when a guy comes along and makes what many seem to say are outlandish statements, you have to understand why there is a follow. I'm not saying whether I follow it or not. You have to understand why there's a following there, because for so long we've had a president that won't even call it what it is.
I think that is a fair and accurate point. I think you are spot on with that. That is part of the reason, and part of the reason for the popularity is that I do think that Trump, I think he's shaken up this race. I think that he's been, in some ways, has been very good for this race. I think he demagogues a lot of issues, but demagogues thrive when there's an absence of leadership.
Exactly. And just one more thing real quickly, if I may, on the race and the, him shaking up things. The establishment Republicans are running scared of him.
Yeah.
And if you look, they say, well, he'll get beat by Hillary. Well, let's look at their track record of John McCain and Mitt Romney and Bob Dole. It's not a great track record. So I'm not saying whether I support the guy or not, but, when I look at the establishment Republicans coming out against him, I've got to look at who they've put up there, and I know who they would put up there. They would put Jeb Bush, probably the worst possible candidate that we could have. Hey, thanks for the
all right, man. Well, I do think I would not dismiss that at all, that there are a lot of Republicans and conservative independents who say, really, the established Republicans are upset, so let's look back here. See, it's exactly. I think that Steve was spot on a couple of those things. Good call, Steve. We'll take a break and be back. More to come. We'll be right back.
We're in the spirit of giving at MVB Bank this year, and our gift to you includes awesome CD products at great rates, like our 58-month 2.12 annual percentage yield CD. You can start saving today with a minimum deposit of just $1,000. Hurry in now and avoid the holiday rush. This is a present that keeps on earning year after year. MVB Bank, your financial life made easy. Member FDIC. Visit us at mvbbanking.com. A charity that's close to hearts and close to home. Burlington United Methodist Family Services has been changing lives by preventing harm and providing hope and healing to hurting West Virginia children and families for over 100 years. When you make a charitable contribution to Burlington, you're not only reducing your own tax burden, but helping provide crucial services across our state. Learn more about Burlington and see how you can help today at bumfs.org. Burlington United Methodist Family Services.
Hello, I'm your neighbor.
Your sister.
Your son.
Your granddaughter.
I was broken, hungry,
helpless and hopeless.
Catholic Charities reached out to me in hope, faith, and love.
They were there in my time of need, and they'll be there for you.
No matter how old or young you are, Catholic Charities of West Virginia offers hope, help, and love for all ages. Visit CatholicCharitiesWV.org and find your hope today. Catholic Charities West Virginia is an equal opportunity employer and service provider.
You're listening to Talkline on MetroNews. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Women now make up 37% of the work.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Gosh, cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
The Feast of the Seven Fishes will take place Saturday in historic downtown Fairmont. The annual tradition couples Italian-American culinary and cultural traditions with a Mountain State holiday cheer. Enjoy traditional Italian foods, live entertainment, a street market, and a Christian parade. Real tradition you'll find as you're in wild, wonderful West Virginia. We'll get back to the phones in a moment. But believe it or not, speaking of tradition, do you know the ski season starts tomorrow in West Virginia? Joe Stevens with the West Virginia Ski Area Association. Joe, you can't ski. It's 50 degrees, 60 degrees. What are you talking about?
Oh, we can ski up in the mountains. They've been making snow for about a month now here on and off when the temperatures have dropped below freezing. So Snowshoe will be dropping the ropes tomorrow morning about 9 o'clock.
Snowshoe opens up. How many runs do they have open?
They'll have basically one on the basin side of the mountain. They'll have one continuous trail starting up at the top on Skidder, then making its way down to the basin. Two lifts, Skidder and Ball Hooter, will be operating tomorrow. So it's basically, we're not looking, we probably won't have a lot of folks on the slopes tomorrow, but it's for the PUD factor, as it may be. Hoppy, that's the pent-up demand.
Yeah.
And there's some snowboarders and skiers out there that have been waiting for some time to make the first turns of the season.
Joe, we got this. I mean, people are sort of enjoying this mild autumn into winter. However, the ski resorts, they really need some cold weather. They really need some snow because this Christmas time is crucial for them, isn't it?
The week before Christmas, the week of Christmas, and the week after probably represents about 35% of the total business for the year. We're about 2 weeks delayed in starting the season this year. It's traditionally around the Thanksgiving holiday, but we're losing days when it's not real busy. If this was the 29th of December, we would be having a different conversation right now, Hoppy. But the temperature in the forecast is dropping, and with the elevations that we have for the resorts from Raleigh County, Pocahontas County, and Tucker County, we've been making the snow, stockpiling the snow. They'll be able to push it out. Now, next week, the other resorts are planning to come online, weather permitting. It looks like Canaan and Timberline will be opening up a week from tomorrow on the 18th, and it now looks like Winter Place is going to open up on Saturday the 19th.
But snowshoe tomorrow.
Snowshoe tomorrow. The ropes drop at 9 o'clock. The best, and with technology, I don't know if you've ever bought that HD screen, Hoppy. I'm still waiting for you to do it.
I do have an HD screen.
I'm still with you. But technology has helped people understand what's out there waiting for them. They can go onto any resort and see for themselves with the slope cams what the conditions are. Or another website is skisoutheast.com, and you can see any resort in the region firsthand and understand what you're going to have before you get there.
Super. Joe, stay in touch with us. Keep us posted, will you?
We'll be with you, Hoppy.
All right, Joe Stevens, West Virginia Ski Area Association. Sam in Bell. Hi, Sam. Welcome in. Glad you waited.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Hop.
Yeah.
I just wanted to respond to what you were saying about it being fair for the previous caller to characterize President Obama as having been silent about Islamic extremism, having declined, according to the caller, and I guess according to you, it was represented the president hasn't acknowledged that Islamic extremism exists. And I wanted to respond by saying that's false. The president has repeatedly and emphatically acknowledged Islamic extremism, described that it's anathema to our values in the West, and he has done so beginning back in 2009 at the very commencement of his presidency.
Well, I would say a couple things. Wait, just a couple things.
He went to Cairo University and made a speech in the heart of the Middle East about Islamic extremism, naming it and denouncing it.
Well, a couple of things is that if you look at a lot of polls, they do not believe that this president has been a leader, at least has not led as efficiently and effectively as he should against radical Islam and against terrorism. There is a large percentage of people in this country who do not believe he has. And again, even in the speech on Monday, he parsed it out a little bit. He did not identify those individuals as Islamic terrorists. I don't think he did. Did he?
In each of his speeches on the 6th, his speech regarding the San Bernardino shootings, he said, we should not deny the fact that an extremist ideology has spread within some Muslim communities. This is a real problem that Muslims must confront without excuse. Those are his words. I'm reading from the president's speech on December the 6th. Muslim leaders here and around the globe have to continue working with us to decisively and unequivocally reject the hateful ideology that groups like ISIL and Al-Qaeda promote. The president has been very direct about this, and he's providing leadership, but it's principled leadership. And I think it's unfair to ignore that. And I get what you're saying, that there's a perception that he hasn't been saying these words, but the fact is he has, and he's been showing leadership around the world, and it's transformative leadership.
Well,
So
two things. One is, I'm going to meet you part way on this, because I do believe that the president has a very different vision on how to fight Islamic terrorism than George W. Bush. We're not just going to go in there and bomb everybody in sight. And so he's tried to take a different approach, and he stuck with that approach. And it may well turn out to be successful, but it's much more nuanced than what was done by the previous administration. So I want to acknowledge that he does have a strategy. It's just a different strategy. I think the problem for the president is that when there is Islamic extremism that results in violence, that a lot of people want to see something more tangible. And if they don't see something more tangible, then they perceive that as nothing's being done or not enough is being done. Thus, you see the rise of Donald Trump.
The president's position is that diplomacy is tangible, that we have a process. He has gone to the UN General Assembly repeatedly and expressly named Islamic extremism as a threat to global peace and stability that needs to be named, that needs to be denounced, and that needs to be dealt with diplomatically and, where necessary, through force. He has not taken military force off the table at all. And so it's misinformation that is causing these.
No, wait. I mean, he has, but he has taken military force, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but he has taken military force off the table when he says, we're not going to put boots on the ground in Syria, or this is a red line. If they cross this red line, we'll respond, and then you don't respond. So there have been instances where he has taken military force off the table. You would agree with that?
I think that at certain moments in time he has opted not to exercise force, but as far as a policy, he's not sort of set aside the U.S. military at all, and he's used them, and he's come under attack for his use of them, and for the use of drone strikes and so on, as you're aware.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think my point is it's unfair and misrepresentative to suggest that he doesn't name Islamic extremism, that he doesn't deal with it, that he doesn't have an emphatic and a considered policy for acknowledging it and rejecting it.
Well, let's try this. Let me try this. Would you acknowledge that one of the reasons for Donald Trump's rise is the belief by many that the president is not doing enough or being forceful enough on radical Islam?
It is a misinformed belief, but it's certainly a belief that is taking hold based on misinformation among the American public. Yeah, absolutely, I agree with you, and that's why proper information, and citing the president's own words and looking at his appearance at every major speech at the UN General Assembly, overseas in Egypt, and in response to all the major terrorist attacks, the president has emphatically spoken to the world about the need to reject Islamic extremism. And that's information that is accurate, and that should be the basis for the formation of public opinion. And I hope that in the interest of fairness, and you are certainly right to aspire for fair reporting of public matters. We should acknowledge what the president has actually said and where he has said it, and the uniformity with which he's brought that message to the world. He's been expressing leadership, and that's the fact. So that's my point to you. I hope you'll carry that forward and look at his remarks when we're speaking about these matters.
Sam, I appreciate the call. Thanks for participating in the debate.
Likewise.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back.
West Virginia has balanced its budget on the back of the coal industry ever since we became a state 150 years ago. Historically, the coal industry and coal-fired electric utilities have accounted for over 60% of all business taxes, while high-energy wages contribute a disproportionate share of income taxes, and coal severance dollars sustain important programs in all counties. All told, the industry infuses over $26 billion to our state's economy. Coal alone has paid down nearly $1 billion of the state's workers' compensation debt. Consequently, all state businesses have experienced major reductions in workers' comp benefits. The coal industry has always supported our people and our economy, but it's under attack from the Obama administration and the EPA. It's fighting to survive. Coal taxes in West Virginia are higher than our surrounding states. We're losing coal markets to our neighbors. Let's get our mines and coal miners working again. Support a reduced tax rate for mining, paid for by West Virginia Coal Association.
Every minute of every day, West Virginia's hospitals are working for you and working for West Virginia. With more than 43,000 healthcare professionals, West Virginia's hospitals are dedicated to serving the needs of their communities, even beyond traditional healthcare. I am Joe Litnonchin with the West Virginia Hospital Association. We are proud to celebrate our compassionate caregivers and their commitment to improving the health of all West Virginians.
A message from the West Virginia Hospital Association, online at wvha.org.
This is Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more, together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program. Before time expires, I do want to acknowledge the passing of Thais Blatnick. Thais Blatnick was a longtime community leader, legislator from Wheeling. She served in the House and the Senate for a total of 16 years. Most of that, I think, was in the 70s and 80s, perhaps. She passed away Wednesday at the age of 96. 96, Altmeyer Funeral Home there in Wheeling, in charge of the arrangements. Thais Blatnick, longtime community leader in Wheeling and member of the House and Senate, passing away at the age of 96. Roger in Morgantown. Hey, Roger, thanks for waiting. Go ahead.
Thanks, Bobby. Thanks
Yes, sir.
for taking my call.
Yeah.
It's good that I can follow someone from the Obama administration as well. Just wanted to say that a lot of people are wrong. The Constitution does not say we cannot restrict immigration in this country.
That's true.
No one is covered by the Constitution until they live within the borders of our country. And by the Immigration and Nationalities Act of 1952, Congress can restrict anyone from coming to this country that they deem a danger to overthrow the government or the Constitution by any means. It's Chapter 2, Section 212. They can restrict anyone they want.
Yeah, I read a piece the other day by an immigration law professor who said that essentially the same thing, that there aren't constitutional issues here. If you're not a U.S. citizen, if you're a U.S. citizen, you got a different animal here. But if you're not a U.S. citizen, then you don't have the same constitutional protections. And as I said, I think yesterday or the day before, historically, the government, often the administration, has a wide berth on such matters. See you tomorrow. This has been Talkline on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia.